Hi, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Today, I hope you'll stick around and paint with me this loose, abstract watercolor sunflower. It is going to be so much fun. This is the pullback of my work area today with some of the things that are generally off camera that you don't see. I have some inspiration pieces over here to the left, things that I've just done in the past that I have bits and pieces that I'm kind of pulling from, things that I liked. I also have my color chart, my swatches from my watercolors so that I have a good idea of what I want to work with, and it just helps me also to remember where that color is located on my palette. I have my Meeden watercolor palette here, which I love working with. I have my 2 jars of water. Now, I use one jar to rinse my dirty brushes, and the other jar I use for painting. And today I'm using my 350 GSM watercolor paper. This is the Dollar Tree paper. It's an 8x10 that I've cut down to 3x4. Let's get started. So what I'm doing first is outlining the area where I'm going to have my glass jar, my vase. And I'm just angling myself to the light so that I can see where I've placed my water. I'm not really trying to do this perfectly. Okay, so just that immediate outside area. And maybe I'll make this a little taller because sunflowers are kind of big, and so not having a kind of wide vase, I want to make sure I have enough height on it to just kind of visually support the the look of large flowers, a large arrangement. And now I'm just roughly going around the outside of that area. And I'm not getting every bit out here. Just gonna kind of see how that goes. I'm taking my pigment. This is my indigo, and I'm just dropping this in on the sides. Just the sides for now. I'm a little shaky there, but I'm okay with that being a bit imperfect, and just quickly helping this to kind of disperse. I do not care if it's messy. Just kind of pull that down there. I'm totally okay with it being messy. And just kind of push the pigment out where I think it's a little heavy. But now I'm okay with it being a bit darker toward the top. I feel like there's a good chance it would look like that anyway. And then I'm just going to take some clean water and squiggle in around where I plan to have my flowers. Sunflowers, I really like to have, very wild. I really want to keep this, I want to have an abstract feel with it, which is so challenging for me, but so I've wet some areas there, and then I'm just dropping in very randomly some of this yellow pigment. This is Yellow Deep. And this can just kind of lay the foundation for the bouquet. Just kind of work with what I end up seeing in this, I think. Okay, getting a bit of this green ready. And what I want to do is just kind of wet some of this background area. That's a lot of water, so now an area that already has pigment, sometimes you'll notice your paper needs a little more water there. It's just something that, different papers behave differently, and So something to kind of be aware of and be able to watch for. But that seems to be the case with this paper that I'm using today, this Dollar Tree paper. I just noticed that when I have an area that has pigment, and you can see here, this bleeds really in just a more random, freer manner. This seems to act a little more confined, and so play with it. Just play with your paper, your paints. That's how you learn how it acts. And even still, you can have a basic understanding of that. You can have an understanding and still cannot always control what happens. And that's one of the things I particularly like about watercolor. It has just helped me to kind of give in to that and let it happen. Okay, so just added some areas of green, but kind of background-ish. Okay, so now I want to switch to a different brush. Well, actually, no, I don't. I want to go ahead and put in some shadow for this vase. And when I do that, I kind of like to have two lines at the bottom of the vase bottom, and I like that because I feel like it gives me an idea of the glass itself, where there's that thickness of the glass that you will not necessarily be able to see water or whatnot through it. So I'm doing that bottom portion of that and just kind of letting this go out there. I also pulled this up on the side a little. That's just something I sometimes like to do. And I'm just dropping in a bit more of this indigo. Okay. And now I want to switch to my size 6 round. And I'm going to use more of my yellow deep. I don't prepare a lot of my paint in advance. I know a lot of artists spray their palette and get all of their pigments ready. I don't like to do that. I have a couple of reasons. I'm not OCD, but it bothers me to have the spray speckle the other pigments. I don't like spending the time on cleaning that up. So I'm just brushing in some more layers of petals here for these sunflowers. So I don't like the cleanup for that. The other thing is that I don't like how they dry. When I pre-wet them all, I feel that I get some, it's almost like some of the oils maybe dry out. Now this could be a feature of using some less expensive paints. And if so, I'm okay with that, because then I just kind of mix my paints as I go. I just add water as I go, and I bring that to my palette, and then I adjust my amounts of water just based on what I'm seeing, what I'm doing, how much I think I need. If I want a deeper shade, or a deeper value, I guess is more accurate. So that's how I do that. And I'm saying that because I think you have choices. You have choices even in how you prepare your paints, and you get to choose that. There isn't a right way, and you can choose it based on your own aesthetic, and you can choose based on what's easier, or I don't know. The splatters really do bother me. Like they create a bit of tension for me. So I choose not to have that. I choose not to have to deal with it. So I did all these petals, and now I'm just going back with some clean water, and I just want to soften those up. I'm just touching around them, kind of still some petal kind of shapes, but I want these to kind of bleed some. I want the pigment to just kind of spread and, you know, a bit. For me, sunflowers are very tricky to do in an abstract manner because I feel like they're so, I don't know, the shape of the petals, maybe all of those aspects just to me feel a bit more like, you know, fine-tuned. So I don't know, I struggle. I struggle making them abstract, but here's how I just kind of make them looser. And I feel like it works. So, you know, I have that base layer and then making these additional petals and then going in and softening those. And when I soften them, I do kind of, I use the pigment that's there and kind of brush out from it. So it really kind of even makes another layer of petals even. So just, you know, doing that kind of to your heart's delight. And there's a good bit of water on here, so I want to switch to kind of working on something else here. But so far I really like it, and I feel like the, you know, the background leaves, greens, they have a good, that's just, they have a good loose feel for me. So I think what I want to do, because the leaves are pretty good and dry, well, I still had a little bit of yellow on that brush, and I'm going to go in some of this background and add some of the indigo. So you can imagine I don't really want to see very much green in that, or yellow, because it will make green. Excuse me. My brain was kind of getting ahead of me. My mouth was getting ahead of my brain, but I think my brain had already thought through that process, and so it was telling you the end of the story. Okay, I'm going to use a fairly light wash of this, I hope. And just, you know, squiggling this in a bit, and then I'll go back with some more water, because obviously that is not very wet there. Just kind of brushing that. And, you know, I'm not worried really about overlapping. However, I am trying to avoid touching in where my flowers are still fairly wet, because I don't want green sunflowers. And, you know, it would not be the end of the world, but I'm just trying to avoid that. So, and I like it. It is staying nice and loose. So just touching that pigment in where I'm wetting around these, and then just kind of adding some more water and blending outward. That's all I did there. And it's a nice little loose, but still somewhat of a kind of a definition. Just kind of add some background and maybe a little bit of shadow. I mean, that could even be some vegetation there. It's abstract, so you get to decide, and whoever's looking at it kind of gets to decide. And I'm using my 2 jars here, so when I have pigment on my brush that I want to go in with clean water, I'm rinsing the pigment off with my 1 jar of water, and then I'm using my cleaner jar of water for painting, for either brushing in, softening. All of that is with my cleaner jar. And then one last pass here, and just going up with this water, just kind of painting in water on the background, but then really just using and dropping in pigment close to my arrangement. And I think I may just go ahead and go up in here like that. Okay, so one last time, just bringing this water in, kind of helping to squiggle that out some, and then just softening it. I like it. That's working really well for me. And that is definitely going to dry a bit lighter than that. So, you know, be aware of that as you're painting. Okay, I like this. The next thing I want to do is I want to draw my stems, paint my stems. Wow, I cannot believe I said draw. I don't, I can't believe that because I don't draw. So, so I don't really know where that came from. But just get some stems in here. Excuse me for bumping my my camera stand. Now, I always say, this is just my thinking, but every flower does not have to have a stem. You do not have to make it make sense to you. And, you know, it takes, especially for abstract, it takes a lot less to make sense to the mind than for something that's a literal representation. So you can relax about that. So here what I'm going to do is I'm taking my clean water and I'm going to go inside. So I'm leaving a little space between my background line there. And look, I am trying to do a nice, neat line, but I'm also aware that, you know, I'm shaky. I'm always a little bit shaky. And so I'm not stressing over it. And I don't think it matters even in the least. But now I'm just kind of filling some of that. And it does not matter. I'm happy with touching the stems a little here and there. That's not, that I actually usually do that on purpose. And then I'm just going in and, you know, not too completely or solidly. I'm just kind of gently stroking in some of this indigo pigment for water, but I don't want it to be solid because I want to go back with a little water and let that kind of blend in. So I want some lighter values and some darker values. What I did here was I rinsed my brush and then I blotted it a little, leaving some moisture on there to just kind of gently coax these areas of pigment to where I want them, but without completely obliterating the just kind of how it has randomly situated itself. I don't know a better way to say that, but you know, I have some lighter values and darker values, and I'll go in with a bit more pigment down here and maybe right there. Okay, I like it. I like that. Okay, now inside this this arrangement, I'm going to go ahead and brush some water, and I'm doing a little on the outsides, but essentially where I have space between my flowers, leaves, stems, what have you. And I'm going to add, initially I want to add some of this indigo in there. And I'm hoping that I can do that and create some depth in that. I'm going to use this indigo at kind of maybe a medium value of that. But I'm just kind of squiggling this. And I love this indigo with the sunflowers, and I want this to be, you know, random, but I also don't want to overwork it. And so I think it can range from some light, dark, you know, there can be some range of value in there. And just trying to keep my hand real light, you know, not trying to control this too much. And I think I could just kind of touch this with some water, kind of bring a bit more of that into the sort of the background. Just kind of coax that out. And then, you know, going in and softening anything that seems a little too hard, but I'm not too concerned with that. Kind of a light value of it, and just make sure I have a nice line for my vase there, and then I'm going to soften that just like its background. Okay. One of the ways to just keep this feeling a bit more abstract, or something that I do anyway, is to use a kind of a squiggle with my brush. Now, I don't know how much darker I want that. I kind of want to add more. I kind of want to add some of my peacock green. And you know what? I think I may do that. I think I just may do that. This is something I'm just, you know, I'm just doing as I go and seeing what feels like it would be, what feels like I would like, or that it needs. Do love this peacock green. And I tend to use it in kind of a darker value, but I think that's really suited here, where, you know, you would have all these shadows from the arrangement, and maybe not so much so far out, but just kind of dropping that in a bit. And then I have a couple of places that were a bit dry, so I'm just taking some water to that. Okay, now I kind of wish I was working with this all a bit more wet, but again, the sunflower situation with not wanting to make these flowers green, so it's kind of tricky. But this, I love it. I think it's going well. So I've just taken my brush and rinsed it and kind of blotted it off, and I'm just kind of brushing up to that to soften into this and let that kind of bleed out into the background just a little, just to make that a bit looser, a bit softer. I like it. Okay. I like that. I'm really happy with it. And I think the addition of that peacock green was good. It's kind of added a little more depth to that. So yeah, I'm happy. And I think now would be a good time to go in and create some more leaves. Leaves are, you know, not to keep confessing things that are so tricky or hard for me, but I feel like leaves are difficult for me to do in an abstract manner. Let me just say, everything is hard for me abstract. Have I said that? So just try not to take it seriously. Just and I'm hoping that working with some of this while it's wet kind of encourages some bleeding and you know, loose kind of feeling, but you know, I don't know. Okay, and these leaves, I kind of like to use the side of my brush a lot to make them. I feel like it helps me keep them from being too rounded or perfect. I'd like more jaggedy stuff on that. I'm kind of struggling to get it to not just blend in. There we go. Okay. Like, it is not always easy to get the stuff to cooperate. Ah, there we go. There we go. I'm just kind of trying to make sure as I go with these leaves that I'm seeing similar values across my across the painting, because, and you know, it doesn't have to match, but if I have some dark leaves over here, I want some dark leaves over here. I just don't want to look back at this later when it's dry and go, oh wow, there's that one set of dark leaves. How could I not see that while I was painting it? Can you tell that's sometimes a struggle for me? That's sometimes a struggle. Like, I'll see something later and go, what? How did that happen? So I'm just brushing in some kind of some background leaves now. I don't love that. I feel like it's a little dark down there, so I'm just going to kind of take my brush, just kind of blend that green into the blue. I think that's fine. All right. I want to take my raw sienna and I want to create one more layer of petals in these. I feel like, you know, for this trying to be abstract, my flowers, you know, just to me look a little try hard, like a little too precious, but you know, I'm learning, I'm trying. Sometimes it's, you know, it's tricky to stay as loose and I don't know, as less than technical as maybe we want to. I don't know. I think some people have much more of a gift for this, but I'm learning and I enjoy it. And the thing is, I feel like even if I'm trying for a certain style or look, I really try and have found so much more joy in not relying on an outcome to, in order for me to decide to like something that I've done. I think that, you know, you can just create for the sake of art and you can like it even if it's not how you envisioned or, you know, what you were exactly trying to do. And I feel like this, at least as far as as I've experienced, I always feel like, somewhere in there I'm learning something, I'm perfecting something or improving something, as far as my style or technique. And so even just, my eye maybe. And and so it's okay. It's okay to just do it and enjoy it and, take lessons, sure, take your lessons from it, from the process, but then it's okay to just like what you've created. And I do like this. And, I feel like I'm on the right track. So I want to, do the centers. For me, it's always a toss up whether I want to do brown or black as my center. Because I really like either, and I feel like either looks, beautiful. Today I think I will do my dark brown. It almost is a black. I mean, honestly, it's so dark. So the one thing that I notice is that I don't know how to keep these centers loose. The style to me just seems to be such a tight thing. So I'm really here. I'm just going to try to squiggle these in quickly. And that's my attempt to keep that loose, is to work fast. And maybe that will help me be less, I don't know, precise about it. That's my goal. So when I squiggle these in, I am still trying just to use the tip of my brush, and I'm mindful of how I think the flower is shaped, how it's oriented, whether it's leaning, tilting, angled upward, and then I'm creating my centers based on that. And leaving some of that white in there. I think I did okay as far as just keeping that kind of loose. I don't want to go back and dink with it a lot because I don't want to lose that. So I think I may just kind of leave it like that. I like it. I like that a lot. All right. Now what we need are a few stems in there, because that the indigo and the peacock green are, there's quite a bit of pigment in that. I'm going to go for, a deep value of this olive. Just make sure it looks, I'm going to go in kind of easy at first. Yeah, it looked like it was dry enough to work with, but I just wanted to be sure. Oh, I like it. And some stems going over to those to areas where there are leaves. And I'm just trying to keep that, gosh, so loose. There we go. I like that so much. Now I'm just gonna put some of these, I don't know, I tend to call them like tendrils, but just a few of those kind of going here and there. Trying not to be too matchy. There we go. I like that so much. I'm really happy with this. I think it's very close to abstract feeling for me. For me. Make sure to qualify that. Let's see. Don't want to overdo these little things. Okay, that's nice. That works for me. And then, you know, maybe just because there would be some leaves in there, just bring some leaves. It can kind of be, you know, coming out from behind some of the flowers, or just little brush strokes there, honestly. And again, for me, I have to really watch where, you know, where and how I'm placing things, so I'm not I'm not trying to match, you know, what I'm doing on this side or that side. It's easy to do. It's easy to just kind of do that absent-mindedly. And now I'm just going and kind of softening, just touching here and there. Just a few little, you know, brush strokes. This is kind of, because I added some water, kind of a lighter value. So the added bonus is just getting kind of some depth in there. And then maybe also just kind of in those outer areas. I don't love how dark that was. Just some, you know, some variety in these leaves. I'm going to kind of fix that, maybe brush that out. Because it just kind of got away from me. All right, just keeping this nice and light. Maybe one more set of those, kind of coming down here. I like it. You know, it probably sounds ridiculous that that I cheer myself on so much, but you know, those first paintings that I did, and you know, in my earliest learning, you know, in the over however many, the last few years, I know I was just so critical of um, how I was doing and how I felt about my painting was, you know, quite critical. And I think that it's just so much more. It's worthwhile to me to express my happiness with even, you know, my own work, my own painting. that just makes it more of a delight. So I like to do that. I think it's good. Right now, I think this is done. I will certainly update if I do anything else, if I decide, to make any changes, but for now it's done. I hope you enjoyed tuning in today and watching this process. I hope that you have painted with me or that you find something to paint yourself or save this and try it later. As always, happy painting.